Hey guys, welcome back to Iron Game Chalk Talk. I'm your host, Ron McKeefery, and today we have Nick Winkelman with us. Nick and I spoke at the Michigan Clinic together recently, and I was very impressed with his presentation on reactive agility. Felt like it was something that I wanted to share with the Iron Game community, and I think you're going to be able to take quite a few nuggets, not only about reactive agility, but the scope and the mission of athletes' performance and a lot of things that they got going on. Obviously, they're one of the better performance facilities out there. And Nick's in charge of the education plan, the education program. And so how they train their staff and get everybody to understand their systems is some interesting stuff that we talk about in this episode. So before we do, want to make sure we give some love to Play Sports Performance Flooring for the job that they're doing. Just got back from the NSCA National Conference, and Play did a phenomenal job as usual in their booth with, they're lifting Atlas stones and dropping them. But I'll tell you, not only did they have a big group around their booth constantly, and they're doing a great job out there with several of the installs that you see on screen, but they treat us very, very well. And I know that if you gave Brett and Angelo and the gang a few moments of your time, just like a lot of the strength coaches I talked to throughout the exhibitor hall, they would come through tenfold for you. So make sure you reach out to them if you're in the middle of building the facility and you're in the market for some sports flooring. So sit back, enjoy this episode. I know you're going to get a lot out of it. We'll see you on the other side. All right, guys, I'm here with Nick Winkelman. If you have gone to any conference in the last year, there's probably a good chance that you've seen this guy speak. Had the opportunity to hang out with Nick at the Michigan Clinic just recently, and very impressed by him. He's everything that everybody has said, and I took away about 10 pages of notes from his presentation alone. So, Nick, I appreciate you being on the show, man.
No, I really appreciate you having me. It's an honor.
Nick, for the people that don't know you as well, can you kind of go into your background a little bit, how you got into strength and conditioning, and then, if you could mention maybe some of the mentors you've had along the way.
Yeah. So, I think everyone in strength conditioning has a story. For me, when I started, I was back in high school, 15, had an unbelievable strength coach in high school named Rudy. Rudy worked at Costco by day and was a strength coach for our high school by night. And just at a young age, he really taught us the value of being a professional, commitment to a craft, that being weightlifting and the sport of football. And through that process, he also helped me kind of redistribute my body, if you would. So both on the fitness, the football, the strength and conditioning, he taught me a lot of lessons. So I got excited about it at a young age. My first job was in a gym, and I've worked in one ever since. From there, I went to Oregon State University. They have a strong exercise sports science department. Within my second year there, I was in a kind of an in-house personal trainer certification course through Dixon Recreation Services. It's our massive rec center. There I met my first and real mentor, Guido Van Rijsingem. And Guido now presents on the Perform Better circuit, kind of more from a therapy standpoint, but really is interested in motor learning and teaching. So he continues to teach me an amazing amount of information. So he kind of guided me through my undergraduate experience. He got me in with the Pittsburgh Pirates, which was one of my first major experiences, spent a season in Bradenton. Yep. From there, or while out there, I got to spend a ton of time with Aaron Mattis and Chris Dunaway, who's been in the Pirate system for a very long time. I look at both of those guys as critical mentors of mine. From there, I came back to Oregon State senior year, worked within our strength and conditioning department. So spent a year, again, in baseball. In 2006, we happened to win the World Series. So I was able to have both that professional, that collegiate, and then for 3+ years, I was a personal trainer. So I had a kind of a triangulated experience. And all the while, I had this drive and desire to work for athletes' performance. Guido knew Mark when he was still at IPI in Sarasota, Florida, and basically painted this picture that this was a key person that you'd want to work under. And my senior year, got finished, moved to Arizona right out of the gates, got an internship at Athletes Performance, and was fundamentally hired within a month of it being over. And, since then, Mark Verstegen and the great team we have at Athletes Performance have continued to be mentors of mine. But that's the quick version of kind of how I've gotten, and I've been at AP now for 7 years.
Well, it's such a great point that you bring up, the impact that a strength coach can have on a young athlete's life. I mean, going back to Rudy at the high school,
yep.
Play such an important role in these athletes' lives, and I know that's important to you. Talk a little bit about your relationship with your athletes and how in a short time and maybe a combine prep type scenario, how you're able to form such a strong bond.
Yeah, when these guys come through, as you said, we have 4 to 8 weeks. In some cases, only 4 weeks before the NFL Combine. And in the last couple of years, I've had between 30 to 40 athletes. So we have a lot of different personalities, a lot of different programs. All of them are the best at what they do, and they're coming to us, obviously, to get superior results in a very short period of time. And the first thing, it's cliche, but we focus on getting them to understand how much we care about them as a person inside of them as a player. And I always seek to understand. And I remember at the Michigan Conference, you talked quite a bit about this. So what did you study in school? Do you have any kids? What's your favorite color? What's your sport? Are you a video game person? Do you like to read books? And some of the craziest things, you assume these guys just want to play football, but some of them have unbelievable hobbies. And, sometimes their eyes just it light up when you ask them about other things besides football. So in those first couple interactions, I'm all about them as a person first. And at the end of the day, that first week that they're with us is about building awareness around the program, and I don't need them to be as centered on the X's and O's outside of getting a general feel of what I'm asking them to do. So it affords itself nicely for us to develop a relationship. And then at the end of that first week, after we do our first battery of testing, I sit down with every single athlete one-on-one, go through their results. I try to get deeper into what we call their it. Why do they play football? If they were to win a Super Bowl and no one cared, if no one attended the Super Bowl, would they still want to win it? If the answer is no, okay, then what's the first thing you're going to do when you win a Super Bowl? Are you going to call your mom, your dad, talk to your kids? What is the it? What drives you? And then I try to take that and reverse engineer it, tie it back to their goals, and give them an understanding of how this process, while it is just an NFL Combine, is a critical step in them being able to reach that football goal and then fundamentally that life goal. And I guess in a broad way, person inside of the player first, tie the process to their goals of football and emotion, behavior, and on. And from there, obviously the reputation of AP helps my process quite a bit as well because they come in knowing. And all those things together have given us great success in getting a relationship out of the gates.
No doubt. Athletes' Performance is this conglomerate now. I mean, it was, like you said, Mark at IPI and it started even a humble start in beginnings, but it's grown into this massive conglomerate. Talk a little bit about the different areas of API now. I know the military is a big thing now. And combine prep and then talk a little bit about your role within API.
Yeah, we basically have 2 big divisions. We have core performance, which is all of our corporate wellness side, and then we have athletes performance, which is our performance division. Within athletes performance, we have 4 fundamental sections. We have, as you said, the military, international, which is all of our relationships in professional soccer and rugby, including the German national soccer team, U.S. men's national soccer team, and 27 other teams around the world. We have our elite division, which is basically NFL Combine and all the major performance pieces that we do. And then we have everything that relates to our facilities. And then above all of that, we kind of have this arm that we call our Performance Innovation Team. And this Performance Innovation Team is basically like an internal R&D to seek, learn, test, apply, and assimilate the best in equipment, methods, and systems across our company. So everyone, whether you're on a military base or you're in Europe on a team or you're at an AP facility, have the things you need. So that kind of gives the broad strokes of the company. We have 5 training facilities now that are athletes performance and well over 20 to 30 core performance centers in places like Google and Intel. Wow. My specific role is really three-tiered. Number 1, the first 2-3 months of the year, I oversee the NFL Combine Development Program. So from a kind of a methodology standpoint, I own the testing and the speed development, work with my colleague Dennis Logan on how that meshes with strength, And then we work with our nutrition and our therapy leads as well. And then Coach Dennis Logan and myself, we actually facilitate the program here in Arizona. Next year will be my 5th season leading it, my 7th in the program. So that takes up the first quarter of the year. Mm-hmm. Other major piece is all the education. So I oversee our education department. We run about 25 to 30 courses a year from a performance mentorship. Each of these mentorships are 4 to 5 days in length, 4 total phases. People come to one phase at a time. Each phase basically deep dives into our performance systems across mindset, nutrition, movement, recovery. The big thing I tell people is we are a systems course more than a method. We're here to help you take everything you know and everything you're going to learn from us and put it all together in a system that can evolve with you. So that's my other major job, doing a lot of teaching, content development, and been doing that for a very long time. And the third piece is I work quite heavily in our performance innovation team. Because education has allowed me to travel around the world and with Combine make a lot of detailed connections there, I come to the table with a lot of insights on equipment, methods, systems, and just other great people, Ron, like yourself, that allow us to come in and basically have a pulse on the industry. Sure. And my role in the performance innovation team is to get that pulse and make sure we are bringing in the best people, systems, methods, equipment, kind of learn, test, apply, and vet those ideas out to see if we can assimilate them and scale them out to not only the people at our company, but a lot of this goes right back into our mentorship and our education. We want to give it back. So, again, kind of 3-head prong of my job.
Yeah, and we talked about this a little bit at dinner that night, that one of the things about athletes' performance that I've always respected from afar is their commitment to educating their people, and how, like you said, you got 5 facilities. You walk into any one of those facilities, and the people that are working there know the systems, and they know it well. Talk a little bit about how you guys go about bringing each, if I'm a new employee at API, what's the process to kind of get up to par, per se?
We have a lot of different resources now for that because, we're bringing in hundreds of employees over the next couple of years, and that's a key thing that we've been working on, Ron. And in looking at that, first thing we have is what we call an internal onboarding. That internal onboarding actually has a team of people that work within the performance innovation team that basically have taken the curriculum of mentorship plus the internal pieces of how to use what we call ops. So basically our internal database, HR pieces, interaction pieces, things that are unique to being an employee, and aggregate that all together over a 2-week experience, part of which is held online. We basically have our own online learning management system that we call API-ED. And we also have on-site, face-to-face. So if you're a new person on a military base, we'll actually fly someone out to you. You would have had to do some online education prior to that, and then basically allows us to hit the ground running with you and work on dense application theory and make sure that you can regurgitate that back to us so we kind of have an understanding that you understand what the process is. We also have gotten on with a company called Jive, and Jive basically builds out internal platforms, much like Facebook, for companies. Yeah. So our specific one is called Fuse, F-U-S-E, and essentially it's a Facebook for athletes, performance, core performance employees. So it would allow me to have day-to-day interaction, video sharing, video chats, everything Facebook provides, plus a huge collaborative, both private and open source collaborative pieces, so I can work with someone from Europe on a methodology piece if I want to. Wow. And it ties into all of your Microsoft functions. I can make an update and immediately upload it. So we have this API-ED, learning management software, Fuse, which is basically the internal Facebook, a database system that connects all facilities around the country, around the world, and then a detailed onboarding process. And that collectively really scales and makes sure that everyone is delivering the same product.
That's impressive right there. That's obviously a part of the major role with you being the director of education. But
absolutely,
one of the things that would probably have come out of that was your piece that we had talked about, that you talked about at Michigan on reactive agility. And the importance of reactive agility when it comes to maybe even selecting or being able to identify a more genetically gifted athlete. Talk a little bit about, why is it important, and how to evaluate it?
Yeah. So when we look at transfer, and that's what everyone wants, I'm a firm believer that in the weight room we build engines. On the field, we build specificity of that engine. And then on the field, we also need to transfer that engine specificity to the sport-specific skill. And as strength coaches, obviously, we walk that fine line when we do movement skills with our athletes of things that are just generic movement skills versus pieces that actually will transfer so our football coaches will be happy with us. And reactive agility just happens to be kind of that, in my opinion, just the final piece to the puzzle. Mm-hmm. All the movement skill things that we can do that are non-reactive are phenomenal. They develop specific movement patterns. They take that strength and make it usable. But with reactive agility now, the key thing we're doing is tying the athlete's ability to identify a stimulus and choose the correct movement response. So within training, we give them kind of this sushi menu of all these different movements they can do, but my ability to choose a movement is only as good as my ability to identify a stimulus that tells me I need to do it in the first place.
Right.
So reactive agility just takes that bridge and brings it one level further. And the key thing about it is we want to make sure that the stimulus, whether it be kind of visual, so seeing another person, auditory, sound of a ball, or tactile, I'm posting up on someone, they go to my inside hip, so I roll outward.
Right.
We want to make sure those stimulus are specific as well. Because even within reactive agility, not all reactive agility is created equal. You still have to have that stimulus specificity. And once you have that, that's how you get the transference. Mm-hmm. But what's cool about it is we can work on kind of what we call one movement sequence at a time. With a lot of athletes, they get tunnel vision, forest from the trees issue. So much is going on the field. How are they supposed to pick what they need to do? You see it all the time.
Right.
As a strength coach, what reactive agility allows us to do is pick movement sequences or slices of that forest and hammer their ability to recognize relevant cues and make decisions and continue to add complexity to, inevitably, we know they're still going to go play the sport, which is how it all gets put back together. So in simple terms, that's kind of the reason why reactive agility as a bridge is so important for us.
With the, you mentioned fusion sport, with the light system as far as providing that stimulus. Now, if you're at, North Kansas City High School, and you don't have the ability to purchase a fusion sport, what would be maybe a progression that you would use with a 4-cone drill or something along those lines to kind of to create that reactive agility stimulus?
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, as long as you're training it,
sure,
that's the major thing I'm interested in. And I think you and I both know there are a ton of great reactive agility drills that people do all the time. Anything that's one-on-one or one-on-two, small-sided games, 4 cones, 6 cones, whatever it is, I think the first major takeaway for the listeners of this is be doing some kind of reactive agility. Even if it's the most simple thing, we'll do the game where the athletes have their hands out and try to slap each other quickly. Yep. Something as simple as that starts to work on visual identification, right? Simple mirror drills during a shuffle pattern allow me to say, am I looking at the feet, the head, or the body? And just the generic ability to identify movement cues is important. So, from a drill standpoint, start with a simple cue, like slapping someone's hand, to something more complex, shuffling side to side, to something even more complex where we run at each other, and then you sprint one way, I have to follow, and then we come back the other way, where now there's 3 different decisions being involved. Right. So I think this is, as long as they have that thought process, you're good. The reality is, as long as you have any timing system at all, you can test reactive agility. It doesn't need to be the most expensive light-based ones. Because the reality is, if we can imagine, a coach is on one side and an athlete is on the other. If that coach comes through the gate, that starts the time, and as long as the athlete runs through either the left or the right gate, that stops the time. So if we do that, we start to get an understanding of at least who is better at responding to the coach and who is worse, or even just athletes doing that with each other. So even the most simple systems can allow that to happen. To inevitably, smart speed fusion sport allows it to happen at a much higher level with lights and flashing bells, which is phenomenal. But if you can't afford it, any system can do reactive agility.
Well, obviously, what and the research that you presented is, it's a statement of the obvious to some degree, but from the elite, athlete to the amateur athlete, the difference in reactive agility timing, But it is a great indicator, maybe in a recruiting type setting, to be able to identify somebody that's got the potential to have a tremendous amount of success. And that was one of the biggest takeaways for me. Obviously, if I'm back in a college setting but just the evaluation piece of if that's the same drill that's part of maybe that camp situation where we're going to run the 5-10-5, but I'm going to point. And the point is different for each guy or it's the same for your elite, for your prospects. At least then you're able to get some reaction and you're able to have some sort of evaluation amongst that population, and so.
Yeah. I mean, it's like you said, and for the people watching and listening, just plug reactive agility. Those two words into Google Scholar, and there's a ton out there. There's about 10 to 20 really good articles, simple reads, but they're all done on athletes, like you said, professional rugby, professional Aussie rules football. None of this is in labs. It's lab equipment, but in a practical setting. And in literally every single study, they have shown that these various reactive agility tests discriminate between high and low playing ability, comparing a college to a pro or a college to a high school. That's right. And like you said, I think a lot of it is just evident just by watching them react and how they make decisions. People that can make better simple reactionary decisions are likely to have better potential to make more complex reactionary decisions. Yeah. And that's important for potential. And the other funny thing I like to tell people is, when we look at the combine, it's wonderful, but obviously a lot of teams still make bad choices. So we know the combine, the NFL combine still doesn't have the ultimate level of discrimination between who I should pick and who I shouldn't pick in terms of talent. And I think the reactive agility gets us much closer.
This is a question that I wanted to ask you at the conference. What direction do you see the combine taking at some point to maybe include that component, or is there tests that you think needs to come out or a recommendation in that regard?
Yeah, I don't think any tests need to come out. The only way I think a test needs to come out is if we want to add enough tests where fatigue becomes too much of an issue. Sure. But I believe that the heritage of the combine is wonderful, and to be able to compare yourself for so many years back is a good thing. And I've heard kind of the director of the combine say that while we're opposed to removing drills, we're not opposed to adding in potentially some new evolving drills. Sure. Now they do the FMS, and at least a couple teams do it, and they share it with everybody. We know there was the new kind of personality assessment that was put in this year from a cognitive standpoint. So there are things moving forward. I absolutely think that over the next 5 years, you will see some kind of decision-making reactive agility component built into the combine. I do believe that, and maybe we will see some of those change of direction tests taken out, because really the 5-10-5 and the L drill, it tells you the same story. Right. So why do both? I'd rather see one of them be a reactive agility test.
Sure. Well, and to some degree they do that in their individual periods, but it's not standardized.
It's not standardized, and it's hard to measure. Right. Because the reactive agility, what's cool about it is it can allow that person that normally slows down a little bit to make a faster decision. It can allow them to do that. Because we know with receivers, they're not going to be gunning straight ahead and then take a turn. The best can do it, but most of them have to have a pace. Running backs as well. Right. So here it allows you to actually move and react at the pace of sport. And that's what's cool about it.
Sure. Well, with all these things you got going on and all this time, it seems like you're here, there, and everywhere. What's next for Nick?
Yeah, the major thing is still number one, taking care of my family and my daughter. That always is the biggest thing for me on the next. Finishing up a PhD, I'll be done with it 2016 hopefully. So that's a constant next. Right. Every semester is
that's
a new.
With Edith Cohen, right?
No, I did my master's through them. It's through a university called Rocky Mountain University of Health Professions. Okay. So any strength coach out there, they have a master's in performance coming up and a doctorate in health promotion and wellness, which really fits the schedule of a professional if they want to get that high credential. Right. And then after that, every year just kind of throws me new curveballs. But the biggest thing that I'm kind of focusing on is athletic profiling. Is the big thing I'm interested in professionally, and really how to do a better job of identifying injuries, identifying potential talent, So the whole athletic profiling, and then my PhD is on coaching science. I think, and I know you share this appreciation for how can we better communicate to get better learning.
Yeah.
I'm all about motivation, but within the context of a motivational environment, how can I accelerate learning? And with the limited off-season time you have in the NFL and I have with Combine, it's all about maximizing someone's potential quickly. So, a lot of the presenting I'll be doing this year is on cueing and coaching science. So those are kind of my next hallmarks or focuses for the next couple of years.
Oh, that's great. Well, a couple of quick questions before we let you go. Some stuff that we typically ask. Give me a quote that you kind of live by, or maybe a quote that's plastered in your office there.
Yeah, I mean, I got a couple. I was thinking of two. Number one is "You haven't taught until they have learned," by John Wooden. As a coach, I feel that quote is a limiting factor because if you can't live up to that quote, there's a lot of other motivational ones that probably don't mean nearly as much.
Sure.
And the one that I love to say to my athletes is, goes to the effect of, there's a bunch of different ways, is, we will do what others won't today so we can do what others can't tomorrow.
Yeah.
And I really just, when I say that to athletes, that's one that I consistently see just sparks a fire, means something different. And it's all about, going to the ends of the earth within your ability. Those are my two kind of motivational and coaching quotes.
I love it. Give me a book recommendation, maybe something that you're reading right now or something that you have read recently.
Yeah, the one that I happen to have it right here, Attention and Motor Skill Learning. Most of the strength coaches shy away, I think, from motor learning, rightly so. But that book's by Gabrielle Wolf. She's on my dissertation committee. It's the whole premise of what I do. I feel it has revolutionized or evolved, rather, the way I coach. And just really understanding the importance of what we say. And it matters a whole lot with how an athlete learns. Not just how we motivate them, but how they get from A to Z in the learning scale. So
sure.
Attention and motor skill learning for me is a must-have for all coaches.
When you're as busy you are, you don't have as much time to get online and surf. But when you do, what's a website that you maybe go check out?
Yeah, honestly, it's geek, but I'm a big Google Scholar, PubMed guy.
Yep.
That's the first place I go. And once I've kind of exhausted the research side of things, then I get on Strength Coach, I get on T Nation, and I see, hey, who else has looked at this? Who else has kind of assimilated their ideas?
Right.
So that's my approach to it. And people say, oh, well, that's because you're getting your PhD. No, that's the reason I'm getting a PhD, is because that's the way my mind works. I want evidence, which I know is always lacking, and then I go to the source of who's applied it.
Sure. No, it's all about getting to the innovators, isn't it?
It is.
And that way you get it directly from the horse's mouth when it comes to their take and how it could relate to your current situation. Yeah. What about maybe an app that you use with your athletes or maybe yourself to from an administration standpoint? Yep,
I'm a big kinesio capture guy.
Yep,
big kinesio capture guy. I'm a big fan of Excel. In terms of just using that as a tool to build systems. I still believe in that. I haven't gotten as much onto the Mac side of the applications because we're still Microsoft based here at AP.
Right.
And then one that I wanted to throw in there is, as coaches, I think we're constantly we're making presentations, we're making motivational things for athletes, but we're constantly kind of generating media, whether it be online or to the athlete. And if coaches out there haven't visited Prezi.com, it's a phenomenal presentation software that you can get licensed to your computer, where it's private or it's open source online for free. But it takes presenting information to a whole new level. And I would just encourage the people listening and watching to check out Prezi.com, Prezi.com.
Yeah, it's been mentioned a couple of times on the show. And it's definitely great if you know how to get in there and move around. And
it takes a while to learn, but once you got it, it's a game changer.
That's what YouTube's for, right? You go on YouTube.
Absolutely. That's how I learned to use it.
That's my go-to,
Exactly.
Well, I know I'm going to link up all the things below as far as your social media, how they can get in touch with you and stay in touch with you and follow what you got going on. But, I know, obviously being the director of education at AP, You got some mentorship courses coming up. I know you got a big who you got speed-wise coming in pretty soon, right?
Yeah, we have Franz Bosch coming in August.
Right. Yeah.
And for those that don't know who Franz Bosch is, his book's called Running, Applied Biomechanics and Physiology, or something of that nature. But this is the only time he's come to North America this year. And if people don't know about him, I mean, I compare his book to Super Training. It's that good. And we're having him out in August. And as they'll see with our education link, they can look that one up. And we run our mentorships all year long. The next big stint is October through November stateside, and we run them all over the world, Netherlands and Norway this month. And then I'll be up at IFAST with Mike Robertson and Lee Taft doing a speed clinic this upcoming Saturday.
Okay, great. Well, hey, Nick, I appreciate you coming on, man. I think everybody's going to take some great nuggets away from this episode, but I know you're busy, and it takes person of high character, high quality to give up time to try to help other coaches out. So I appreciate that, and I appreciate you being open to the listeners of this and the people that watch at home. So I appreciate you coming on, brother.
My pleasure, Ron, and I think I speak for everyone. You're doing a great thing here, and again, a person of your background caliber to be open enough to do this on your free time is absolutely commendable, and we're lucky to have you.
Thanks a lot, man. Have a great week.
Appreciate it.
Okay, guys, as usual, we'll make sure we mention all of the links that Nick outlined in the episode down below in the show notes. But as usual, we want to leave you with a few things. Football Strong clinics are coming soon. This next weekend is the Detroit, Michigan clinic on May 18th. And then the following week, May 25th, in Baltimore, Maryland, is our last clinic of the year. So if you want to get out and enjoy these clinics, make sure you go to ronmckeefery.com/FB Strong, Football Strong, FB Strong, to register, and that way we can plan accordingly for you. But both of them will be great events. Both have great speakers, and it really outlines the annual plan for the high school, collegiate, and professional football athlete. Also, Strength on Demand, still kind of working on that behind the scenes. It is close to being launched. You are really going to love this product. It's basically an online archive of strength and conditioning presentations. We're going to put up 52 a year that we handpicked throughout the year, and be a great resource for you to be able to go on and get your research done in one location via any device that you have available to you, iPad, iPhone, computer, or through your TV with Hulu or Roku and Apple TV and things like that. So hope that you enjoyed this episode and that you have a great week. We'll see you next week with another episode of Iron Game Chalk Talk. Take care.